Hi everyone, it's Henry here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at one of the new resin characters from Forge World for the Age of Darkness. Now, this is Endryd Haar. So a quick bit of background, this guy is what's called, or leads what's a band of what's known as Blackshields, which is essentially Marines that, whether they were from a traitor legion or a loyalist legion, they have chosen to abandon that legion and represent themselves, as it were. Some of them will fight for the Imperium, some of them will fight for the War Master, some of them just fight for themselves. But they're a very, very cool faction that essentially you can do whatever you want with. And in the new Beta Garment book, we see a bunch of Black Shields characters as well as Shattered Legions characters. And Games Workshop sent me through Endryd Haar to paint up as part of this sort of month or two of heresy stuff that I'm doing. And you see guys seem to be enjoying it, so I want to continue it with a couple. And essentially this video is just me painting in a way that I love, using paints that I really like using, and I'll try my best to explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I hope you enjoy. Let's paint. So let's take a little look at the kit itself. He's a big lad, Endryd Haar. He was originally sort of rumoured to have been a Thunder Warrior, which are sort of the precursors to the Space Marines. And he's absolutely gigantic. And I was really itching to see just how big he was, because we'd only seen pictures of him not next to anyone. So that was sort of first up. And one of the things that was immediately encouraging was how traditionally, I suppose you would say, he goes together. The arms are basically flat joins at the shoulders, not quite flat. They've got a nice little locator lug, which is always useful. Unlike some of the solar stuff I've been building recently, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, he's actually a very simple miniature, which is it's just exciting, really. Back in the beginning of when we got miniatures for Horus Heresy, they brought out Khorne, the guy who would go on to become Khorne the Betrayer in 40k very early on, and a lot of people converted him up to be their sort of more assault-oriented looking Praetor or HQ model. And I think this guy could fill a similar role. Very, very simple to de-Endryd Haar him, as it were. Very easy to replace all the bits because they just go on normally, bar, unfortunately, the head. Well, not unfortunately, it's not a big thing, but as you can see here, it's not just the normal little ball and socket joint that we get. But I want to replace his head using one of these World Eaters helmets. So what we need to do is remove the head from the sort of collar bit, then trim it right down, and then glue it in place. And now I'm going to drill out the little ball and socket joint. So it's, like I say, it's not a big job, and I could still use that Endryd Haar head if I wanted to. But say I don't. I want to put a helmeted head on this guy. I'm just not a huge fan of the sculpt of the head on this guy. You may love it, in which case fantastic, but I don't. So I thought it was a good opportunity to put a helmet on, and I love de-cornifying these World Eaters helmets. I did it for a Warhammer miniature few months back for a video as well. Just really like it. So I've just, glued that collar piece in, and now I'm drilling out the socket joint for the ball to go into. And in the end, I think I went up to a 4.5mm drill bit to get where I wanted. And when it's resin, let's just be mindful of the dust and stuff. So I had the drill on quite a slow speed, and then don't just blow the dust everywhere. Again, I'm not here to do health and safety, but resin is a little different to plastic. And you don't just want resin dust everywhere. It's not great for you. And then I thought I'd give him a little crest, and I've cut the crest off the command sprue that you get in the new Mark 6 and Mark 3 plastic kits, which if you play Heresy you probably have a ton of. And all I need to do is use a little bit of putty just to fill in the little gap that's there where it normally attaches, because things, is it transverse it's called when it goes left to right? Anyway, that. So for the painting, black shields, they don't have to be black, but a lot of them are, and the idea is in a lot of cases they've either sprayed over their previous armour, or what I want to represent with this paint job is they've sort of scorched the old colours off. I love painting black armour schemes, and we always get asked about them, and one we often get asked about is how do I paint metallic black. So this is one way I would go about it. I think gives you quite a fun colour. So first up, I've got some airbrush thinner, and then just a little drop of Flow Aid. And this is because I'm going to use a Metal Colour Series paint. This one's called Duraluminium. It's just a sort of silver colour. And I find that the Flow Aid helps when I'm airbrushing these. I very rarely use it with anything. I've had that bottle for over a decade, but I do find it helps with the airbrush, the metal colour series. It stops it beading on the surface. And I'm going to colour this up a little. So I'm going to use Darkoath Flesh. I did a ton of testers for this to try and get the right colours. So I had in my head this idea of, oh, I wonder if I can represent like a burnt iron look. And in the end, this is what I settled on. So I'm mixing in Darkoath Flesh contrast paint. If you don't want to faff around doing all of this, then Valdor Gold, which is a ready-made air paint, isn't a million miles away. And I used it on one of my testers and it looked pretty decent, to be honest with you. So yeah, as for applying highlights, going to keep it fairly simple. I do still want it to look like black armor. So you can see as the light is shining on this this miniature, you can sort of see where the highlight should be. So what I'm going to do is fill in where that is reflecting on the miniature. In most cases, in some cases you need to exaggerate it a little, and because obviously that light is reflecting off a small plastic miniature as opposed to a 8-foot tall walking tank. But you can see already just that lovely colour it gives by mixing in that dark oath. I absolutely love how this scheme has come out, and I think you could probably use it on Iron Warriors, Iron Hands. I think it would look equally cool for those guys as well. Now I'm spraying at about 25 psi using a 0.4mm needle and nozzle, and this is on our Hydra and Steenbeck Signature Series Evolution. So I'll show you on the one miniature and then we'll fast forward and I'll do the whole of the actual Endryd Haar mini so you can see where I'm putting the highlights, the sort of sizes. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to those of you that support us over on Patreon. Because of your support, myself and Andy now do this full time. So we produce videos over here and then we produce videos over on Patreon. Andy's just about to kick off, I think it's a Lumineth model at the moment. He's just finished his Golden Demon series. Then he did a lovely large scale model from Sergio Calvo. And now he's just starting on a little elf. So it should be fun. And again, just thank you ever so much for all of your support. We massively appreciate it. And if you can't support us over there, but you like what we do, then like, subscribes, comments, everything make an enormous difference to us over on the YouTube video. The fact that we've managed to grow nice and slow, nice and organically, just doing what we like, doing the videos and the stuff we think's useful for people that we like doing. It's been very rewarding. Yeah, it's just thanks to you guys. So yeah, keep it up and so will we. Right, so I think that's him more or less there. I then wanted to use a different colour, sort of to highlight it, but it's not necessarily going to be a lighter colour. It's just going to be a different silver. So again, same airbrush thinner in, little drop of flow aid, and some more of the Duraluminium. I guess that mix is probably about 2 drops of thinner to every drop of paint, something like that. And then I'm going to use Aggaros Dunes. So exactly the same way, I'm just going to colour the silver up. And the reason I've done this is with the first silver, it was quite a warm, pinky, sort of brown pink silver we've gone for. Then Aggaros Dunes has a much more, as you can see here, like a yellow-green tint to it. And obviously the red and the green we know will work nicely together as a contrast. So when we apply it, it's not really going to be a contrast of value, sort of lighter and darker, but it will be a contrast in colour, which hopefully will add a bit of interest to those highlights. And here I'm just spraying in the same areas. You can see how thin it is. I'm going to spray in those same areas, but just in a smaller part of that area. And yeah, I'll show you on sort of one of the test models, and then we'll do it on Endryd Haar himself. Now I know he's looking pretty silver right now, and if you are going Iron Warriors, say for instance, I would just expand the highlights out a little more and leave it at this stage. Then I think you've got a really interesting looking silver. But I would say I want to blacken this up. So I've tried to leave a little bit of black in some of the shadow areas. The nice thing with this is you just don't need to worry too much. Like, just keep it neat and tidy. Keep the highlights making sense next to each other. But don't stress out too much about it. With metallic paints, the reflection and stuff does so much work for you. Yeah, if you want to, by all means, exaggerate it and go for that look. That's just not my cup of tea, particularly for heresy stuff. I quite like it on those Deathwing Terminators. I did sort of taking that value contrast quite high. Might do another unit for them soon, actually. Good fun. But there you can see we've already got lots of interest going on this armour. Now I want to darken it down. So I've got a probably 3-to-1 mix of airbrush thinner to rattling grime, maybe 2-to-1. And I'm going to basically just layer this up over the model, one layer at a time, and let it dry in between. So just one nice layer over the paint, let that dry, move on, and do the next one. Because contrast paint, as it dries, goes much more matte and really darkens everything down. Then I just get the hairdryer on it, speed it up. Now, if I was doing this for an army project, I would be taking note of the exact ratios I was doing for everything, and I would probably make up a few big batches of the mixes to use just for that sort of consistency. Now, in the end, I think I did 5 coats of the rattling grime. But you can see each time as it's drying, it's getting more and more dull, looking more and more sort of blackened, which is exactly what I was after. It was one of those ones that just, I was laying there asleep, awake at night, sort of thinking about painting and what I was going to do for this guy. And I just thought, I've used rattling grime loads recently. I love that colour. I wonder if that would work as effectively a black glaze or a dirty black glaze. And that's essentially where this whole scheme came from. Now, if I have lost too much black in any of the shadows, I'm just going in here with a 50-50 mix of airbrush thinner and Black Legion, which is the black contrast paint. Black Templar's quite grey. Black Legion is a nice dark black. Dark black? Yeah, it's a nice black. And I'm just spraying this into some of the shadow areas if I think there's just a little bit too much of the silvery colour there. Now I want to go in and paint in any of the other details. There aren't many on this guy, which is great, but the ribbing, beautiful Mark V, my absolute favourite mark of armour. So the little sort of, I don't know really what they are, connector bits, I've just painted using model colour black, and I will highlight them with a little grey later, but nothing complicated. The leather skirt thing that he's got, it's not Territoriges, is it? I think that's the shoulder things. Anyway, his little leather apron he's got here. I wanted to do quite a light brown colour because I wanted that to contrast nicely with the armour. I didn't want to go too dark with the leather because it's one of the only ways to get another colour on this miniature. And again, get that contrast of value, that light and dark next to each other. So I've given it a base coat of Thondia Brown by Games Workshop, then a wash of Garagax Sewer, and now I'm going to mix in Gobi Brown to the Thondia in increasing amounts and just sort of tippy-tap my way down the edges and slightly into each strip of the leather here. As I say, we just add increasingly more and more until we've worked all the way up to the pure Gobi Brown. But yeah, lovely mini, lovely to paint. And then once that was finished, I came back slightly later on in the process, but I would do it straight after. In hindsight, if I was doing it again, I've just taken some Garagax Sewer again, and I'm just adding a little bit of that, glazing a little bit of that down the centre of each strip, just to help reinforce that sort of the way worn leather can look. Now, for all the bonding studs, which initially I wasn't a huge fan of them being squared off rather than round, but painting it, it's really nice. Actually seeing it in the flesh, I really like what they've done with it. And I do wonder if we'll see this when we get a plastic Mark V kit. And I'm base coating them using burnt iron, which is another metal colour series metal, and I just wanted it to be a different silver, obviously to what I'd used before. You use whatever you like, it's really not important. And then for the brassy areas or bronze areas, I'm going to base coat them using Decayed Metal, one of my favourite paints. And then something I haven't done for ages is washed that Decayed Metal with another Scale 75 paint. It's a Fantasy Games paint, so very, very strong colour. It's called Despair Green. And I've watered this down loads to create a wash. I'm just going to wash that all over. It dries much darker than it looks like it's going on here, but it tarnishes up sort of bronze colours beautifully. And as I say, this whole project's just really just enjoying using a few old favourites, trying out a couple of new things, but just having fun. And then for the crest, is it called a crest? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it's called a crest. Brush? His head thing, his mohawk, I'm going to base coat it Khorne Red, and then I'm going to start mixing in Wildrider Red to highlight it. Then once all of that is done and dry, we're going to give the miniature an oil wash. Now I'm going to use Bitume here by Absalom 502. That's because it's a slightly reddy purple brown colour. Now I've put a little bit in a metal dish there and I'm mixing it with normal mineral spirits from the DIY shop. If I was doing this across an army, I would be using Artist's mineral spirits, odourless ones, something like Sansador by Winsor Newton, because it's much nicer to work with for an extended period of time. But when I'm doing it really quickly and I want it to dry particularly quickly, using just off the shelf, just white spirits is quite useful. And this is quite a thin wash. You can see here on a piece of plastic card. It's really just going to act like a filter, so to slightly change everything on the model, and then also as a little bit of muck and dirt in the corners. Now, it's very, very important that you remove any blue tack that you've got on the miniature at this stage, because with the mineral spirits will turn that into this horrible goop, which can get everywhere and ruin your paint. And I'd only got blue tack there in his collar so that I had a clean point to glue his head into later. And as you can see, I'm just doing a nice simple coat, working panel by panel across the model. And so this will just give us a nice filter over everything. And that's because I'm not going to do tons of dirt and grime on this guy, as ridiculous as it sounds, partly because there's loads of it modelled onto him, which I'm still not entirely sure if I like or not. I think it's really cool now I've painted it, but but I'm not sure. So yeah, bit this bitume all over just to change that colour up and add a little bit of dirt and grime. But what I've been trying to do with almost every step is use dirty, grimy colours to help sort of reinforce the idea that, you know, and this guy in particular, Endryd Haar, is just an absolute nutcase. Yeah, it's just a monster. And gets a really good ending in the Siege of Terror books. Gets what he deserves as a character. Gets a bit of his moment in the sun, as it were. At this point, I felt like the weapon, his Archaeotech pistol, was just a little bit too boring. So I've just literally grabbed some ivory here and put 2 little stripes all the way around it, just to give it a little something. Because it's the same silver as everything else on the model that's silver, but I just needed something to differentiate it a bit. I really like making my weapons often just a plain silver with an enamel wash. I like that sort of pressed metal look it gives to them. So this is an enamel wash. It says it's for brown and green vehicles, I think, but essentially it's just a dark brown enamel wash, and I'm applying it more or less neat out of the pot, and I've got a little dish of mineral spirits there in case I need to thin it at all. But neat out of the pot, it was pretty good to go. And I just give all the silver areas a little wash with this. I say it changes the finish of them. It adds a little bit more definition, and just grunges them up a little bit more. So at this point, I'm really happy with him. Everything's dried on him now. I'm not using varnishes on the model. The only varnish I used was a little bit of ultra matte on the leather, you know, because I thought it was a bit too shiny. But other than that, I'm not going to varnish the model. I think it'll be fine to do. So really, we've just got a last bit of weathering to do. So I've taken 2 Ammo Mig dry brush paints here, and for the first step, I'm just doing a 50-50 mix of the 2 of them. It's more or less made bulk gunmetal, lead belcher as a silver, so that'd be fine. And please don't stress about using the exact colours I'm using. There's tons of ways you could probably get this look if you wanted to, so don't feel you need to go out and get those particular paints. But all the paints I'm using in this video, I like using them, as I said at the start. Then all of the silver parts, I'm going to highlight using just the light metal dry brush of those 2 paints. And again, just really focusing on the edges that will catch the light. And all of these elements around that armour, the black straps, the silver metals, the brass metals and stuff, they're going to help make the black armour look more black. And then Runelord Brass for any of the brassy bronze areas. So because the oils and the enamels are completely dry, I can just go straight over the top of them with acrylics, no problems. The eye lenses, I've tried my best to film this. There might be a few bits out of focus. I went for green because of that contrast with the red. I've chosen to base coat them using black green. And then I want to do the style of lens. Oh yes, GW Potts there, helping me out. When our paints come out later this year, I think they will be dropper bottles, not pots with lids like that. So yeah, next up, Kabalite Green. I wanted to do these lenses like I did on the Raptor that I painted for the Bad Ab series playlist. If you want to check that out, about a year ago now, I think, actually. I really liked how they came out, and this was a good opportunity to do them in a similar way. But essentially, I'm painting a very thin green line along the bottom edge of the lens. So we went to Kabalite Green, then we're using Moot Green here, and making it ever so slightly brighter towards the middle of the lens, as it were, all along that bottom line. And here you can see I then put a little dot above that line. So line along the bottom, dot above, and then I added a touch of ivory just for one final highlight. But that footage was too blurry, so I'm just showing you sort of zoomed in here, but I hope that makes sense. It's a very simple process to do, but it is difficult because you need decent brush control and a steady hand and all the rest of it. But it is a simple sort of couple of steps to do. Then the last little bit of weathering. I'm going to use some sort of dusty colours. This is partly for an upcoming project I've got. I want to test a few things out, which I'm doing on this guy. But I've got those 3 different colours on my bit of cardboard there, just to use as a palette. And then some mineral spirits in a dish. And I'm just going to sort of work the oils over the model. And the reason I've chosen these lighter colours is because I will have him fighting in an urban environment. I'll have his base be quite sort of urban rubble, destroy city, that sort of thing. And I want to represent that dust and grime on his armour. And if we just use a dark black or a dark brown, it would look all right, but it wouldn't be particularly interesting, and it potentially would grime him up too much, and we would start to lose the separation and definition between panels and areas on the model. But by using a lighter colour, which is still in keeping with the setting, if he was fighting on some swampy, muddy base, this wouldn't make sense. But having him on that dustier city base, it should make sense. By using that lighter colour, we can do a little bit of sort of panel lining, as it were. I haven't varnished or anything before this. And you can see I just sort of mix it up on the cardboard palette a bit, mix it up on the model a bit, pull a few streaks down. You don't need to go wild. I gave myself maybe 5 minutes, certainly no more than 10 minutes to do the model at this stage. So really, I like doing that because it forces me to focus on areas that are important. And again, I've painted this guy with army painting in mind, albeit a character, but I would paint every Marine like this. I don't think, I don't think it's asking too much to do for me, and I would enjoy it. And if you've watched the Titan video I did last week, that is very important to me. I would rather take a little bit longer and be really happy with the processes and result. Now for the base itself, I'd left this in. I'm not entirely sure. I want to tweak this a little bit for my solar, but I thought this was a good opportunity to test him. So I've got just a bit of rubble on the base, and then I've given it a couple of sort of very wet coats, or very thin coats of Tamiya paint there, khaki and flat earth. And you can see as that dries, it looks lovely. I may not do the pigments after, because I really do like how that looks. But here you can see me just smashing a couple of pigments into that surface as well, just to give us more of that dust and dirt and grime. I did a similar, not similar colours, but a similar style of basing when I did that White Scars Army for the launch 2nd edition. But I'm nearly there with it. I'm nearly there. And hopefully in a few weeks, when I can post the solar update video, it will have how I did the basing in them. But I thought I'd leave it in because I suspect someone will ask. And it's only a minute or two, isn't it? And that's my take on Endryd Haar. Done. Yeah, real joy painting this like this. I've put him on a 40mm base. He comes on a 32mm, but I think he's too big for that. As you'll see in a shot in a second when I put him next to that Warhound I painted a while back. Yeah, he's a big lad, as he should be. But he's lovely and dynamic, and I believe they have been purposefully sculpting quite a lot of the character miniatures a bit larger, just so they stand out on the table a bit more. So I absolutely think you can still use him, for whatever force you're doing. And let's be honest, one of the classic tropes in any Black Library book, isn't it, is he was big even for a Space Marine. So that here you go. Here's your hero. Yeah, I read this as a dirty, burned, blackened, charred, whatever you want to call it, discoloured black armour, and therefore I think I've achieved what I set out to do. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it absolutely is mine, and I am struggling not to glue a bunch of minis together from all the bits I've got and make a little Black Shield force. I definitely think this would work as an Iron Hand scheme. Like I said, I've done an Iron Hand scheme very closely following the original one from Forge World from years and years and years and years ago. But I really do like this, and I might paint a couple of Iron Hands in the next sort of month or two, and I think I would do them in this scheme when I come to do them. But yeah, so very, very simple. Relatively few paints, relatively few stages. We haven't spent hours and hours doing chipping and weathering and all that on him. To be honest with you, whenever you use a metallic scheme, I think that element of the paint job is less impactful. It's not so you shouldn't do it, but it's less impactful, and potentially you don't have to spend as long doing it. I think possibly I could have done lots of bright silver chips over him as scratches. That would look cool as well. But because there's so much of that sculpted stuff on there, I think it would have ended up looking a bit too busy to read. But it would be interesting to try it on a model that didn't have all that sculpted in. I think I would certainly do a lot more of the bright silver scratches on him. But yeah, let me know whether you like it, the sculpted detail. It's certainly cool to see how the shoulder pads are with that bonded ceramite and all that underneath. It's a cool idea, and I'm glad they're trying different things with the sculpts. So yeah, as ever, if you've got any questions about anything I've done in the video, pop them down in the comments. I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Heresy training's not stopping. We've got more next week. I hope I'm going to have another tank for you. So that should be a lot of fun. So thanks ever so much for your support. Take care, and I'll see you next time. If you've liked any of the models in this video and you fancy having an army of them yourself, but perhaps you don't have the time or wherewithal to get it done, consider dropping us an email at commissions@cultofpaint.com, and maybe Ben can sort you out.